Welcome back. As we've been reporting this morning, there are two critical hearings today that could have a huge impact on Donald Trump's legal standing. This comes as Trump competes with Nikki Haley to win over voters in the final days before Super Tuesday. Here to break it all down for us is host of CNN's Smerconish and our political commentator, Michael Smerconish, who joins us from the great city of Philadelphia, a city we both know very well. Michael, good to have you today.
Hi, Rahel. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask, with these two hearings happening today, it appears that Trump's team is successful at least delaying some of these things. I'm wondering if voters don't have the opportunity to see how this plays out before November, how impactful do you think that's going to be come November?
It may matter a lot, and it may matter not at all, because as you know, when you look at the polling data, people who are supportive of Donald Trump have routinely said maybe in the 20 to 20% range. But if there's a conviction, then I wouldn't be supportive of Trump. I'm not sure I believe them because they've stuck with Trump through thick and thin thus far. You know the line. He claims he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and still get away with it and win. And I think in the eyes of many of his voters, that's probably the case. There's also significant difference between these four different actions, as you point out, two hearings today, but two federal trials, two state trials. If the only case that gets to trial before the election is seemingly the first one up, which is we're now in March, maybe later this month, the Alvin Bragg prosecution for the hush money payment, I don't know that necessarily hurts him. I really don't. I don't know that that's going to cause any of his base, people who are already voting for him, to abandon him. It's certainly not going to cause people to flock toward him. So it's yet another of those intangibles. In my mind, the big issue is whether the January 6th federal case, the case pending before Judge Chutkan in the District of Columbia, is that going to get to trial before November? Because I think that's the most perilous case to him. And as you know, Rahel, the Supreme Court has just said they're going to hear that with arguments in April, the immunity claim.
Yeah, and you know what, Michael, that's an interesting point because we saw in the federal documents case in Florida that the Trump team is now saying, okay, you know what, we'll take an August start date. And the thinking perhaps is maybe they would prefer that trial versus the federal election subversion case. Michael, let me turn gears and switch gears to the border. We saw both Joe Biden, the president, and the former president at the border. Let's take a listen to some of what they had to say.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion. Over the past 3 years, the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together.
And Michael, the reason why I wanted to play that is because, one, as you know, it is notable that Biden is even on the border. It's the second time since taking office. But when you look at polling, immigration appears to be the issue right now for voters. Look, I mean, more than even twice the economy, more than even twice inflation, unlike inflation where the Fed has a lot of control. Michael, do you think this is an issue where the president can change the narrative and say, look, I actually tried to improve the situation, but the other guy tanked the deal? Can the Dems turn that issue around? What do you think?
I think that's a logical argument, the way you just expressed it. I mean, there was bipartisan support in that Senate bill, and it's pretty obvious, at least to me, that Donald Trump then put the word out with Senate Republicans that he didn't want to see any progress because he knows it's, pun intended, it's his trump card. It's his strongest issue. You're right. Gallup this week said it's the #1 issue on the minds of voters. And then, Trump putting the kibosh on it, you would think would bolster Biden, but I don't know that it will, Rahel. I don't know that people are paying close enough attention to recognize what's just gone on. And I also don't see a constituency of people who are really upset about the border and they say, we need Biden because it's Joe Biden who's going to bring us border control. There doesn't seem to be passion about Biden and the border the way there is for Trump.
What are you watching in the State of the Union? This might be the president's largest audience to date before November, certainly if we don't see any dates, any debates. What are you watching, Michael?
More than message, more than policy, his ability to deliver it. And I have to say this, for all the concerns about his acuity, his mental acuity or frailty, use whatever word choice you would. Last year in the State of the Union, I thought it was one of his best appearances ever. He was, I don't know if heckled is the right word, but Rahel, remember the exchanges that he had with Republican detractors. I thought Biden handled himself very, very well in the State of the Union. Well, he's a year older. We're all a year older. You got to see how he's doing on Thursday night. There'll be a lot of attention just to make sure that he's on top of his game.
What about Super Tuesday? Do you think a week from now, do you think on next week's show, do you think we're still going to be talking about Nikki Haley? I mean, the stakes for her, it seems like, couldn't be larger.
Rahel, what a week is coming up. Super Tuesday on Tuesday. You know, for like a year, we've been talking about, and when we get to Super Tuesday, well, we're there. Super Tuesday, State of the Union, and then keep your eye on this. A week from today, no labels. 800 people getting together from 50 states and trying to bring to resolution what are they going to do. So I think we're going to know a lot more about Nikki Haley, a lot more about Joe Biden, and a lot more about a third-party candidate by this time next week.
Okay, talk to us about tomorrow. What can we expect from tomorrow's show?
I want to game out the timeline of how the summer might play out with Trump being tried or not. And I'm going to pose the question, what happens if Trump is put on trial post-Labor Day? Would DOJ even do that? DOJ doesn't want to do anything that's political. Of course, a trial judge is going to set the trial date. But is Merrick Garland or Jack Smith, are they going to want to try Trump in September or October? That fascinates me.
Wow, I didn't even realize that was a possibility because it is so close to November.
Well, stop and think about it. So the Supreme Court hears argument on the January 6th case in April. They come back, what, June? Judge Chutkan says she needs 2 months for the teams to prepare. It's Labor Day. So now it's the start, like the unofficial start of the final sprint of the campaign. Are we really going to see Donald Trump sitting in a courtroom on trial instead of campaigning, instead of attending debates? I mean, everything else has been so crazy. Maybe that happens too.
And then talk to me a little bit about sort of the one thing you're watching. As you pointed out, I mean, it feels like these days every week feels consequential in the world of politics. But this week, especially because of all of those things, State of the Union, the Super Tuesday. What are you watching?
I don't think that Donald Trump is successful with his immunity argument in front of the Supreme Court. I don't think that's going anywhere. It's not so much how it ends, it's the way that it's handled and the timing of it. I'm most interested to see what the timeline will be like, because I think that the spectacle, and of course there are no cameras in a federal courtroom, but still the spectacle of a major party candidate in the heat of the campaign being on trial, I don't know how that breaks. You know, if there are no cameras, a lot of people are going to resort to their cable outlet of choice and probably be reinforced in their beliefs. Maybe it doesn't make a big difference, but there's so many intangibles that we have no idea what's coming and what's going to play out in already a kind of a nutty election cycle.
Yeah, for sure. And then before I let you go, Michael, just because you're in Philly, a city that I know and love very well, and a city that Biden has visited many times, certainly over the last year, I'm wondering if you could give me your quick take on Michigan and the primary results there. It's an area where he hasn't visited as much. Do you think that was a mistake, especially in light of what we saw with the vote there? I thought that
the uncommitted vote, what did it end up being? 13% for in the Biden election was. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people. And of course, it all stems from the perception of the Arab community in terms of his support for Israel, notwithstanding what's just transpired in Gaza in the last 24 hours. And then you look at Nikki Haley and the vote that she's getting. When you remove, however, all the obstacles, and it's just Trump and it's just Biden, I think, you know, we could run that election tomorrow and get the same result that we'll get eventually.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, we'll leave it there. Michael Smerconish, always a pleasure to have you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.